Hello and welcome to next part of our 2D top-down game tutorial, and today we will be talking about game design document. In the previous episodes we did a lot of generic code for our games like inventory, movement and so on, and now it's time to make it a little bit more specific to our game and design some core game mechanics of the game. And the best way how to do that is writing the game design document. But before doing so, let's discuss why you should even care about design documents like that. There are multiple reasons, but the first one is to organize your ideas. When you are thinking about your game while eating a breakfast or taking a shower, you got some ideas. And you need a place where to collect those ideas and start thinking about them more deeply and connect them to another ideas. And game design document is perfect place for that. Another reason why to write a design document is to stay focused. If you write down all the game mechanics and features in the design document, you have a plan, and if you stick to that plan, you will in the end reach the goal and you will have a game. You don't have to fear about the feature creep where you are adding more and more features without reaching any goal. Next benefit of a design document, which relates to the previous point, is that design documents forces you to think about your game before actually coding anything. It's definitely cheaper and faster to just think about the features in your game and how they are interconnected before coding them, because coding is harder and more expensive when it comes to time. And you can also find some missing features you weren't thinking about, but in the end you will need them. The next important outcome of a design document is a plan. The design document allows you to come up with the list of work items, and once you finish them, you will have the resulting game which you planned in the design doc. And this is really nice because you see the goal and you see what you have to do to reach the goal, and you can roughly plan how much time it will need. And maybe you will also remove something from the scope of your game because you will find out that it just takes too much time to do that. There are probably much more reasons why to write a game design document, but for me those 4 are the most important as a solo developer starting a new game. So now we should have an idea why the design document is important and what are the benefits, but let's see how to actually do it. And it's all about thinking about various topics about our game and answering some questions. So here I will give a list of topics, and later in this video we will get through them and answer them for our game in the tutorial. So the first one is the game idea. That's about the basic idea about the game, like what the game is about. The second topic is the fun aspects, like why the player should love the game, why the player should be satisfied with the game, and so on. Next topic is the audience, like who the player actually is. Is it a child? Is it an adult? And so on. Next there is gameplay mechanics, like how the game should be played and what are the rules. The next topic to think about is the graphics of a game, like is it 3D, is it 2D, is it isometric, what type of graphics is used, and so on. Then there is music and sound, like what is the atmosphere of the music you want in the game, and so on. And then there is a story which should drive the game forward. Another important concept is the 10 minutes demo. In the game design document you will be working with a lot of presumptions. You will for example think that something is a good feature, but in the end when you do that it will not turn out as a good feature and you will probably have to change it. Or maybe the players will play the game in a different way than you were thinking. You therefore need a way how to test these things before spending a lot of time working on the full game. I therefore think it's a good idea to implement the first 10 gameplay minutes of a game to show the game features and the game mechanics. And it should be done in a way that it looks like first 10 minutes of a final complete game. You may ask why you have to do that, and there are multiple answers. The first one is that it keeps you focused on some small part of a game. Instead of focusing on the full game, which might feel overwhelming, you can just focus on the first 10 gameplay minutes, which is much closer goal. Another very important reason is that in the end you will have the first 10 minutes gameplay, and you can share this with your friends, with your kids. They can give you some feedback and you can change the game completely without spending a lot of time working on the full game parts. This also motivates you a lot because showing how people enjoy your game is always motivating, and getting that early in the development is super positive. Another important benefit of using this way is that you can later share this demo on some social networks or even use it in Steam as a preview of a game, and somehow boost the marketing for a game in case it's needed. So now the most important thing, how we will plan the first 10 gameplay minutes for our game. We will start with the game design document for the first 10 minutes. Then we will plan the work items which will implement all the features from this game design document for the first 10 minutes. And then we will actually start implementing them, and in the end we will have our 10 minutes gameplay demo. And we will do the implementation in the rest of this series. So let's now jump to the game design document I created, and I will share it with you in the description of this video. So far the game is called Lost Relics, and you will get the idea why in the game idea description. The game idea should give you the short summary of what the game is about. In our case it's quite simple. The hero appears in a world which is attacked by evil monsters, and the monsters can corrupt the land. You can for example imagine that there is a swamp around the monsters. The hero has some old relics which can defeat the monsters and heal the land, and he has to find more of them to defeat the more powerful monsters, and there is a simple story connecting multiple levels of this game. Next part of our game design document is fun aspects. This is based on the article on the gamedeveloper.com about the 14 forms of fun, and this article tries to answer why some games are fun and some not, and what is the nature of fun in the games. I've chosen these 3 items from this list because I think they describe what I'm trying to achieve here the most. The first one is problem solving. The game will be partially about resource management. The player will have a limited set of relics, and they have to be used wisely to keep important land healthy and preventing more monsters from corrupting the land. When done properly, the player should feel the satisfaction from that. The next one is thrill of danger, and this is somehow self-explaining. There will be monsters and the player should defeat them, and it should be a fun. And the player should feel satisfied when the monsters are dead. And the last thing is the advancement and completion, and that means that there is a simple story which should motivate the player to defeat harder and harder enemies, and this should again lead to the player satisfaction. Then there is audience and scope of this document. There's nothing fancy here. The game should be for casual teens to adult players, mostly focusing on people who actually like Legend of Zelda and some games like that. And the scope of this document is the first 10 minutes of gameplay. Then there is a section called Game Mechanics, where we describe the main rules of a game. The main game mechanic in our game is the land corruption, so let's describe it further. When the monster appears in a game, the land around it will start corrupting. You can imagine that as blocks of swamp or some other unhealthy land appearing around the monster. The corrupted land grows over time as long as the monster is alive. The player can prevent that by dropping the relic, and if the relic is dropped at a certain place, there is some circle around it, and every corrupted land, every corrupted block inside this circle disappears. The corrupted blocks can still appear, but they will never appear inside the circle of the relic. The monsters can move freely on the corrupted land, but if they move outside of the corrupted land, they will receive damage per second for every second they are there. The same applies to the player character. It can move everywhere, but if it moves to the corrupted land, it will receive damage per second. So these are the basic rules which are also described here in the land corruption section of the game mechanics. The game design document continues with a list of player actions, which are actions the player can take, and there are 6 of them. The player can walk, the player can also roll, which is faster than walking, and when doing on corrupted land, it doesn't result in the DPS, like damage per second. The player can pick up some item or drop it, and it can attack and be interrupted by a dialogue. Then there is a list of monsters in the design document, and for our basic prototype we just have single monster called Skeleton. It's a melee enemy which can stand on the corrupted land, and it can also leave it when the player is close enough, and when the HP is low, it goes back to the corrupted land to heal itself. Then there is a description of basic relic, which I already described in the previous section of this video, and also the basic NPC, which is in our case rabbit or some other wild animal, which just move around and do not attack a player. Last thing is the list of interactable items, and there is single item called long grass, and it's long and it can be attacked and it turns to the short grass. Next 2 sections of the design document are for graphics and music. The graphics is top down in pixel art with 4 directional movement, and it's somehow simple, we will use the existing assets for this prototype. The music in the game should be inspired by the 8-bit chiptune music, and I already have some tracks I like. The last section of our game design document is 10 minutes game experience, which is also the story for our 10 minutes gameplay. I will show it on the blackboard again. At the beginning, our player appears in a forest-like environment. The player can move around and he finds out the long grass, and to pass through he has to attack the grass to cut it. To find out how to do that, overlay with instructions to press the F key appears. The player hits the F key and the grass is cut and the player can pass through. After that, the player will see the rabbits or other wild animals and will try to explore it. Then the dialogue appears with an image of animals being attacked by the monsters, and when the dialogue is over, the monsters appear around the animals. Then the corrupted land will start growing and the player will be instructed to drop the relic to protect the animals. When the relic is dropped, the animals are protected and the player can focus on the monsters and try to kill them. And that's actually all important in this game design document for our first 10 minutes of a gameplay. There is also a link to work items pointing to the GitHub where I store all the tickets related to the features which has to be implemented based on the game design document. This allows me to keep track of the things. The very last part of game design doc is for ideas, and those are basically ideas I got while writing the game design doc, but I don't want to implement them in this 10 minutes gameplay. So that's all for this episode, and in the next one we will start implementing the damage system so we can actually attack and destroy something. I hope you liked this episode. Feel free to send some comments and please subscribe and see you next time. Bye.